Hello everyone, welcome to Career Launcher. My name is Abhilasha and I'll be taking you through reading comprehension today in this series where we are talking CAT 2026 VARC. Alright, so let's get started with our session. But before I begin, let's talk a little bit about how you can experience CAT before the actual CAT. Guys, so Open CDC happens on August 8 and 9, which is where you will be able to experience a mock which is so similar to CAT, where there will be 40 actual test centers, actual CAT slots, that means 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and also 4:30 p.m. And authentic A5 booklets as you get in your exam, and IDs and admit card invigilation, verification, everything will happen just the way it happens in a CAT center. Now, what is the point of doing something like this? Well, we have seen this and there has been proof that your at-home mock scores and your in-center mock scores are very, very different. There's a drastic difference. Now, the difference is not preparation, because if you are only writing it at a CAT center and you're only writing a mock at your home, how is it that the score is differing so much? It's the actual CAT pressure that makes the difference. And therefore, it makes a lot of sense for you to practice at an actual CAT center, which is what will happen in Open CDC too. So if you have not yet enrolled for it or registered for it, then all you need to do is register now, today, just now. And how can you do that? All you need to do is scan this QR code and you're all set to go. For any inquiries, of course, you can connect with us on our number 8130038836. All right, let's get started with our passage. So this is a very interesting passage. If you're watching the video, then you can pause the video and read it and then go along with the explanation. Meanwhile, I will continue with the explanation as we do it. So modern discussions of business increasingly suggest that corporations can become agents of social progress rather than institutions designed principally to generate returns. So modern business discussions are saying that companies should look for or be part of social progress. Terms such as responsible capitalism, stakeholder value, conscious enterprise reflect the belief that business success and social welfare are no longer competing goals. Under this view, corporations are expected not merely to create wealth, but also to advance broader public interests. So the first paragraph is saying that corporations today are supposed to advance broader public interest. That's their task. Okay, not just profitability. At first glance, this shift appears to represent meaningful departure from older economic thinking that treated profit as the principal measure of corporate legitimacy. So there is a shift, and it looks as if, appears means to look as if it is a meaningful change or departure from the previous thought. Yet, now we know, but yet, however, whenever they appear, the tone will change, the idea will change. So yet such narratives often exaggerate their own novelty. So it looks as if it's new, but it's just an exaggeration. It's not, that idea is not really new. The idea that businesses ought to justify themselves through social contribution has appeared repeatedly across different historical periods and has frequently emerged during moments when corporate authority faced public scrutiny. So the minute there was public scrutiny, that's when these ideas came that corporates have to contribute socially and so on and so forth. So that's an interesting thought. So whenever they faced public scrutiny, that's when they started this social contribution idea started coming back. Historically, one influential response to criticism of business was the argument that corporations should balance the interest of multiple groups rather than serve owners alone. This managerial vision presented business leaders not simply as administrators of production, but as mediators of competing social interests. Profit remained important, but was no longer treated as sufficient justification for corporate activity. So we are not saying that it is profit is a justification for corporate activity, that you're only doing corporate activity for profit. However, again, there is a however. Contemporary enthusiasm for progressive business emerges under conditions that differ sharply from those in which earlier versions of such thinking developed. Earlier attempts to present business as socially responsible existed alongside expanding public institutions, organized labor, and political movements which were capable of exerting pressure on corporate power. So when previously you had the attempt to present business as socially responsible, it was happening when there were pressure from other sides on the corporate also. Okay, from labor movement, from social movements, from political movements. In those settings, claims of social responsibility function within a wider environment of institutional counterbalance. So there was a balance that was happening. So if institutions were doing something, there was also a counterbalancing force. Today, the revival of progressive businesses takes place in an environment marked by concentrated corporate influence and weakened collective institutions. So now, today, in this scenario, there is very weakened collective institutions. So that the counterbalancing pressure has gone down. The corporate influence has increased. This changes the meaning of corporate responsibility. If businesses increasingly define what counts as social good while simultaneously occupying dominant positions in economic life, the language of responsibility may become less a constraint on power and more a source of legitimacy. So, author is saying that if the business itself will say what is social good, then it is just a way of presenting itself. It's not really a constraint on power. This does not imply that corporations cannot contribute positively to social outcomes. Businesses may improve employee welfare, adopt sustainable practices, or support particular communities. And yet, such contributions differ from institutions designed to produce universal outcomes. So, they're different. A company may extend benefit to those connected with it, but broader social objectives often require mechanisms that operate beyond corporate membership. So if you want the corporate to become socially responsible, there have to be other mechanisms that will make it socially responsible. By itself, it may not do it. The central question, therefore, is not whether progressive business can achieve good outcomes. It is whether society risks mistaking selective corporate responsibility for a substitute for democratic and political solutions. So it's not that whether business can achieve good outcomes. It is that society is risking something. And what is the risk? That it is mistaking selective corporate responsibility for a substitute for democratic and political solutions. So there has to be democratic and political solutions for the problems and not just make do with selective corporate responsibility. All right. Okay, guys. So Race to 99, which is a 2-day workshop by GP, Shivku, Jijo, and GB, and of course many others, is happening on August 1 and 2. That is Saturday and Sunday next weekend. So please make sure that you're joining me. This is an online version. So of course you can scan this QR code and you're all set to go. Race to 99 is one of our most popular programs that happen every year. This is to talk about strategies to write CAT, how to crack a 99 percentile in CAT. All right, let's take a look at our questions. So here's your first question. So according to the passage, why is the contemporary celebration of progressive business treated cautiously? So why are you cautiously treating this, celebration of that progressive businesses have happened or businesses have become socially responsible? Why are we saying that this may not be what it appears to be, right? So let's take a look. So because corporations today have abandoned long-term social but see, this is an extreme option, have abandoned, they have not, and therefore let's eliminate it. Because similar ideas have appeared earlier under different historical conditions. Yes, that is true. It's not that it is the first time that it has happened. Because governments no longer encourage corporate social initiatives. Well, this is not really mentioned, so that's alien and therefore no. Because stakeholder models have consistently failed in practice in earlier uh, traditions. We don't know because he has not mentioned earlier traditions and failure. So that's also something that is alien. So your best answer will be option number B. All right. Let's take a look at question number 2. Which of the following can be inferred about the author's view of corporate social responsibility? So, what is it that the author is thinking about corporate social responsibility? It may create beneficial outcomes without replacing broader institutions. Yes, he has said that there have to be political and democratic institutions and then adds corporate social responsibility to it. So, yes, this could work. It weakens businesses by reducing incentives for profitability and growth. Well, author has not really suggested this trade-off, right? So no, I'll say this is alien. It emerged primarily because government demanded reform is not mentioned in the passage again, so not correct. Alien again. It succeeds only when implemented across industries equally and with superior power. Again, this was not mentioned in the passage. I'm going to cut this out. So my best answer is going to be option number A. All right, let's look at the next question. Question number 3. Which assumption most strongly underlies the author's critique of progressive business? So what is it that author is really expecting to say? All right. Economic growth depends upon maintaining corporate legitimacy. Well, that was not really an assumption that you have to maintain corporate legitimacy. So, no. Public welfare requires institutions that extend beyond private interest. Yes, he has said that, and that is why public welfare cannot just be brought about by corporates. It has to have democratic and political institutions. So, this could work as a good assumption. Most corporations prefer reputation over financial performance. That's incorrect. This is not something that the author has said. This is absolutely contradictory to the author's thought. Stakeholder models reduce organizational efficiency significantly. Again, organizational efficiency was not something that was mentioned in this passage. So, no. Now, remember, when you're doing assumption questions, you can always use the negation test to check. So, the negation test is that if I negate an assumption, then the argument must fall flat. So that's what you will look at. All right. Which finding would most strengthen the author's argument? So you have to find something that will support the author's thought. Okay. So let's do that. So firms with corporate sustainability programs report higher consumer approval. Well, the author has not really spoken about anything like that they will report higher consumer approval. Also, will it really support the author's argument? No. Corporate welfare initiatives mostly benefit existing employees and consumers, and therefore if you were to put all of social responsibility on the corporates, it would not work. So yes, this is something that will strengthen the author's idea. Let's look at the third one. Business leaders increasingly support ethical branding campaigns. It was not about ethical branding at all. The author's argument is nothing to do with that. So, no. But shareholders show growing interest in non financial outcomes. Well, this does not say that corporate initiatives are very selective and are only focused at the employees of the corporate or related people. So, no. So, best answer B. Okay, the author would most likely agree with which statement. So you have to find something that will talk about what the author is saying. Corporate responsibility becomes meaningful only after profit disappears as a goal. The author is not given this connection that profit should disappear as a goal. So no. This is something that is not mentioned in the passage. The tone of the author is also not like that. Progressive business should be rejected because markets cannot serve public interest. No, but that's also incorrect. So, no. Social legitimacy alone should determine the authority of the corporations. But that's why would the author agree with social legitimacy alone? No, he has said that it's not really true. Positive corporate action should not be confused with structural social change. Yes, this is what he has said, that you have to have your democratic and social institutions in one place and then have your corporates. Together they could do everything, but to expect that the corporate will do everything is incorrect. So therefore positive action should by the corporate should not be confused with structural social change. That's a good logical example. Excuse me. The MBA test series for MBA 2026 is live now, guys. You can put yourself to the test today. If you need to do that, then you must enroll right away. All you need to do is scan this QR code and you're all set to go. All right. So if this session helped for you to practice, do remember to hit the like button, also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and also share this session with a friend. Okay, so to enroll at Career Launcher, 8130038836 is our number. You can connect with us and get your queries resolved, enroll to join us. All right, guys, this session happens every Friday, same time, same place. So all you need to do is join in Fridays with me and practice your VARC for CAT 2026. Thank you so much. I will see you next week, same time, same place.